Hello, everyone. We are ready to get rocking here. We have a really great conversation that we're going to be having today around how do you create great cultures and hire for best fit. And our specific focus area today is inspiring purpose. And we're going to talk about what our definition is for inspiring purpose. We're going to talk about how you develop your purpose statement and then how do you use it. It's great to develop these things, but we don't just want to post it up on the wall and then forget about it. So we're going to talk about how do you integrate that specifically into your hiring process, because when you can connect the dots with the people that you're recruiting and hiring in with a purpose and why your organization exists, you're going to make sure that you're hiring the right people for your organization and for your culture. So we are going to dig into that. So next, I'd like to welcome our panelists up to the stage. I'll do quick introductions for everyone. First, we have Jamie Tates, who is the founder and chief visionary officer at Keystone Group International. Welcome, Jamie. And we have Alec Broadfoot, who is the also visionary and founder of A Vision Spark. Welcome, Alec. And then we have Alex, who is a new panelist for this presentation. We've invited him to join us because he has a really great purpose story about his organizations that he's created and the platform that we're on today. So Alex, welcome to the presentation. And Alex, if you want to give people just a quick overview of Lexco, some key buttons to know about. So if this is their first time joining us, they know how to maneuver and what to expect for our session.
Absolutely. Happy to do that. Welcome again, everyone. So as far as the couple of key buttons in the Lexco platform, and I'll share a little bit of the origin story of kind of where this came from a little bit later. The first is a center left side. There's a tab there that opens and closes the map. And that's where you can actually see if there's any moving around that needs to happen later on. That's the magic button. Down at the bottom, there's a microphone and a camera. That's for turning your microphone and camera on and off. I think we have everybody all set with that already. And if at any point you've got any questions, feel free to hit the live help button on the left side and somebody will jump in and lend a hand. And that's really the basics.
Perfect. Thank you. So if you've attended any of our workshops in the past, we've been going over the Keystone Impact model. And we're talking about specifically today inspiring purpose, which is one of our foundational building blocks of what we feel impacts your organization and impacts your culture. And all of these elements come into play when you're trying to really figure out what is that intersection between your business strategy and your human strategy. How do you make sure that those two things are connected? And these are the building blocks to do so. And so we've talked about conscious leadership. We've talked about trust. Today, we're talking about inspiring purpose. And then in our next session, we're going to be talking about intentional communication. And we're specifically talking about this and how does it impact your culture and how does it impact your hiring. And so that's why we have our experts on today to help us figure out what is purpose, how do we define it, how do we develop it, and what do we do with it today. So I'm going to hand it over to Jamie first to really talk about what our definition of purpose is. You hear a lot of different words used for purpose, your why, your vision, right? All of these things. And so let's get on the same page of how are we defining purpose today? And so Jamie, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion around this. You know, Simon Sinek has talked about purpose or why, right? Interchangeable for a long time. And so people are starting to understand it better, but it's really more about like what drives you. Your purpose as an organization and your why as an individual, right? A human on the planet is really about what drives you, what fuels you, what is your cause and that motivates you to move you forward. And so it's not what you do. It's not maybe what I'm good at. It's not how I do it. How is your differentiators in the marketplace? The purpose is something a lot deeper. And we're going to share some purpose examples later from companies to help you get a really good understanding of what that means. But many of us understand, especially on the hiring side, right, for HR leaders, and is that this is more important than ever. You ask any recruiter, and this is one of the questions that people are asking when they're coming to look at your organization. They're looking at your website. They're trying to get a sense for who you are and why you are who you are, right? Not just the services that you offer. And so I truly believe this is a competitive advantage for organizations that can figure out what this is and what really fuels them and use it in all aspects of your organization, which is what we're going to talk about today. But it's really going through and it's discovered. It's not something in 10 minutes you're going to figure out. It's conversations and really sometimes help with facilitation, right? Somebody from outside your organization to really help you identify why you exist as an organization and what value you bring, right, to society and to the business environment.
Yeah. So Jim, you brought up Simon Sinek, which is, I think, a really great video. If you haven't watched it, just watch the Simon Sinek TEDx Start With Why to help kind of dig into this. But he talks about this purpose, which I'll show an image here of the golden circle, what he calls the golden circle. And I feel like what so many people do when they're trying to determine their why is they actually describe their what. And it's what they do, not why they do it. So do you want to walk us through this, Jamie, and just how we use this with clients to help them get to that core of why?
Yeah. And the idea is that every organization on the planet knows what they do, right? It's what are the services? How do you describe to someone what you sell or the services that you provide, right? So everybody knows that. Some organizations know how they do it. Some don't, actually. So they just stay at that what level on the outer. Some organizations know how they do it. And what how really means is, what is your differentiator? Right? What's your proven process to really work with your customer? And how are you different than your competitor down the street? Right? That's the how you do it and how you show up in delivering your services. But the piece that most organizations struggle to get to is the why. And I think the reason is that the why has nothing to do with money, making money. Yes, an organization needs to do that. That's why you have the how and the what. The why is what's the soul of the organization, right? Why do we exist as a business? And that's hard to do, right? Because we started a business, typically if there's still a founder involved, sometimes it's easier because they have a purpose and they have a why that is the reason they started the business. But if they're not, right, especially in larger public companies, it's why do we exist, right? What value do we add to society and to the environment, right, that we exist in? And it's a lot harder. But your why is more around what motivates you to keep going on a hard day. And I want to give just an example of a situation where a couple actually from clients that we've had, not of their actual why statements, but we have a biomedical startup client that I've worked with many, many years ago. And they were pre-revenue. So for people that understand the biomedical startup space, right, they're 5 years in and they haven't made a dime. Right? That's just the way it works. They're developing a heart valve that's going to save 200,000 lives a year. Okay. So it takes a long time medically, right, to get through that process. 140 employees, valued at $1 billion, and they haven't made a dime. In those 5 years, they failed 3 clinical trials. To get to a clinical trial, it takes 18 months, right? You do all this work, and then one thing happens in a clinical trial, and you go back to the starting point. And then you go through another one. And so my question to leaders always when I share this example is, how in the world does that company get people to come into work every day? After that third failed clinical trial, how do we get them to keep fighting the good fight? It has nothing to do with what we do. It had nothing to do with how they did it. It had everything to do with they had a team of 140 that had a why that was so deep that they knew if they didn't do it, no one else was going to solve this. And they wanted to save lives. And it's that, I mean, that's a dramatic example of this. So I'll give you a non-dramatic example. We have a highway heavy construction client. And what that means is they do the really unsexy work of putting guardrails up on the side of the highways, of doing blacktop and paving, right, for interstate projects and all of those types of things. And so they've got laborers that have no education, right? And they're doing really dirty work every day. And we did this work with them, and they pushed back on us and said, I don't know if we have a why. Like, that just feels a little touchy-feely for our organization, right? Understand, you're in construction. And we gave them some questions to ask, and they started having conversations with their team. And one of their laborers raised his hand and said, when I drive by that guardrail on Highway 94, every time we drive past it, I tell my kids and my family that I did that, and it's going to save someone's life.
Wow.
And the owner of the company was like, wow, right? Humans are wired for purpose. Organizations make excuses on why we don't think we have a purpose. And so I just share those two examples because they're so extreme. But every organization has a soul. They have a purpose that people are proud of. And sometimes we just don't ask the right questions to get that purpose out of them. So I think it's just such important work for us to be doing right now, more than ever, to recruit the right talent.
And connecting every individual in our organization to our purpose. It's not just the leadership team. It's not just our salespeople who are out selling the company. It's the people who are doing the work in our organizations on a daily basis. So, Alec, I want to pass it over to you and just kind of hear from you about your thoughts on purpose and how you developed your own purpose statement. I know it's kind of been a journey for you to develop it and to get to where you're at, and you're also taking a unique approach to it. So share your thoughts on your purpose and how it was developed.
Yeah, our purpose is helping entrepreneurs make better people decisions. And there's such a failure rate with companies, new companies, many of them don't succeed past the first year. And I think only 10% of them succeed to the 5-year mark. And oftentimes has to do with the right people. Entrepreneurs will often want to throw it in the towel. They want to sell, quit, end their business, oftentimes because of people. The people issues, not having the right people in the right seats, drama, toxic environments, and they'll make decisions based on gut and instinct. And at Vision Spark, we're passionate about helping entrepreneurs make the right people decisions so they can flourish and have freedom of time to pursue other passions. So that's our purpose statement. For me, it's been a journey. I mean, we were able to sum that up. And I would often get people ask, well, how'd you start this business? You've been in business 10 years. Tell me about your journey. And, I had a hodgepodge of different influences in my life that really prompted me to start Vision Spark. And so I have a friend of mine, and what she does is she helps entrepreneurs craft their why story. And so I hired her, and she interviewed me. She's like, what were your struggles? What were some of the key moments in your career? And so I was able to, she interviewed me, and she really put it down into a 3-minute story. So right now we are in the process of getting that, we're get that filmed. We're going to have it on our website. We're going to have it on our LinkedIn page. It's going to serve as a way to attract talent, but also a reminder for our employees as to why they work for Vision Spark. So that's a little bit about my own journey.
Well, and what I love about that is you can create and should create a statement, but what you're doing is you're making it come to life by doing the video. So I think it's a really cool thing that most organizations don't do. It's that next step. It's that extra mile that you're going to really make it come to life. So I think it's a really great approach.
And I love the idea of a purpose goes beyond just marketing. It absolutely is that. But I always say it's what gets you out of bed after yesterday was crappy. And that's really what it is for our employees, right? When that project didn't go as planned, when we had that customer issue, when whatever it was, how do we keep humans moving forward, even in the face of, look at our world, right? Uncertainty, chaos, all of the things. A purpose can do that. And it doesn't have to be just fluffy words. And that's what you're doing, is you're operationalizing it. But it's just such an important aspect for all of us to have right now, both personally and professionally in the business.
Yeah, it is. So Alex, I'd like to hear about from you too. And I know your why statement has really stemmed from your personal why, which is very typical for entrepreneurs and founders of businesses. Like Jamie was saying, is that it usually comes somewhere within the founder to create the purpose and why of your organization. So walk us through your journey.
Happy to. So taking it back, I'm a geek. And for me, it's always been about applying technology to help people thrive at work. That's what I've done. I launched a consulting company 20 years ago that was our focus, but it probably took us a good 5 years to, I'll say, rock tumble talking to people. So Alec, I love getting somebody else in to help think that through. Before we were always about how are we helping people do their jobs, but to be able to take it to that succinct statement of, I want to help you thrive at work. Fast forward, there's actually words for that now. They call it the employee experience. So that's what we've been doing for 20 years. But that's always been the passion of, yes, you're going to get to those business results and things, but it's about your team. How are we empowering them? How are we taking obstacles out of their way and applying tech to do that? So that was, I'll say, the mission of that first tech consulting company. Fast forward to 2019, and we took that same thrive at work mentality. We actually applied it to ourselves because we had a team that was distributed around the country. And before the pandemic, I saw that there were folks in the one headquarters office and folks elsewhere. We really wanted one distributed culture. So we actually applied our technology and user experience thinking to say, what do we need to help solve this? And actually, that's where this Lexco platform was born from. It was all about how do we help continue with connection and community building at work. And that really is the focus right now. Is Lexco is all about powering inclusive distributed culture. That's what this business does. So for me, I'm very happy that those all tie nicely together, and it's all about the people side of things.
Yeah, I love that. So it's helpful, I think, for everyone who's participating here today to hear different examples, because a lot of times we think, well, what do you mean when you say purpose? What does that look like? What does that feel like? I would like to talk about, how do you operationalize your purpose? So once you've created it, which we're going to talk about a specific scenario to walk through to actually help you determine your own purpose for your organization. But once you have it, what the heck do you do with it? How do you operational? How do you hire for it? So help us understand it. Maybe Alec, maybe you kick us off with the hiring piece, since that's your expertise. And how do you hire with your purpose?
Yeah. So number one, it's got to be in your job postings, right? So when you advertise for your company, you got to have it in there. So we recommend that a job posting have 4 parts. The first part is what we call the who, or the person. What are the behavior traits and values? So you want to attract the right people that are going to, it's like a magnet, right? So if your purpose is there, you want to attract the right people. So that's the first part of a job posting. The second part is, what success look like for their job. The third is, what do you want to see on the resume? And then the fourth part, to really make it stand out, is you need a why. Why should you come and work for this company, right? So if you're trying to attract someone that's deciding between you or a competitor, or you or someone across the street, or you from another remote company, how are you going to attract them, right? So your purpose is key in attracting that. So it has to be in your job postings. It has to be part of your interview. So one of the questions that you would ask everybody that applies to your company is, what attracted you to come work to VisionSpark, say, for example, or what attracted you to apply to Keystone Group? You ask that question, and you want to be listening for things. Are they drawn to our purpose? And then I would be really overt in that process, and you say, hey, we are really passionate about this. Saving lives, right? To use your examples, Jamie. And we do that by, how does that resonate with you? And you want to be really listening to see, are they really engaged? Or are they just looking for a job? So it's got to be a part of your interview process. And the last thing is, you want to make sure your purpose is on your website, because that's where everyone goes, right? And then to retain your current employees, you want to talk about your purpose and remind them, because they're in the trenches every day doing great work. And at minimum once a quarter, you want to share with them, hey guys, remember, this is why we do what we do.
Yeah. Getting in front of them as many times as possible is crucial, right? We always say 7 times, 7 ways before people hear it for the very first time. So I would literally go through and say, what are the 7 different ways that we're going to communicate our why statement to our organization, or within the interview process, to make sure that people really hear it and understand it before joining the company, for sure, and then after they've joined the company as well. Any thoughts from Alex or Jamie on how to operationalize?
Well, I just love the example you gave, primarily because at 3:00 yesterday with a new client, I was going through this exercise with them, and we discovered, right, their purpose. And I just want to give you guys an example. If they thought they had vision, mission, so just FYI, right? There's all these different aspects. We're not talking about that. Vision and mission are still valid things you can have. Purpose is deeper. And so vision is a bit more about what you do. Like, we want to be this, right? We want to provide these services. Mission is about how you do it. We want to be the best customer relationship, blah, blah, blah. The purpose. So they started with, they're a solar company, right? So they've got a huge social impact draw to people that want to work for them, right? Save the climate, like climate change, all of that stuff. So their previous statement that they thought was their purpose was, we build better solar. They probably do, but that's not a purpose, right? That's what they do. And so we talk through it and talk through it and talk through it. And they came up with, and again, this isn't locked and loaded. This is just, we let it simmer for a while, but because this was yesterday, is build a better future. We build a better future for our partners, which is their customers. That's what they call their customers, for our partners, our people, and our planet. So they're now saying, like, we want to be the right thing for everyone. And we also get to help the planet at the same time. Right? So that drives us, but so do our customers and so do our people. And so it really broadened it for them. And then the first question I asked them is like, how are you going to use this in the hiring? And I got deer in headlights, right? To your point, is this needs to be the very first thing on your job descriptions. When you're out on Indeed and there's 1,000 job descriptions, most of them are horrible. If you don't work with Vision Spark, if you work with Vision Spark, they're not, because they just don't draw people in. They don't tell you anything about the soul of your company. Just by them adding that to the top, simple, adding that to the top of their job descriptions, people are going to be more intrigued with what they do. It doesn't have to be complicated to operationalize some of this.
Yeah. You want to make your job descriptions very different than everyone else's out there. Somehow, I don't know where it started, but there's this standard job description and corporate America uses it. And all these amazing entrepreneurial companies, they follow suit and they make their job descriptions sound like everybody else.
Yeah.
And you got to change it up. If you do it right, you'll have 2 to 3 times the applicant pool. You'll get 2 to 3 times the amount of A players that apply. And you'll hear things like this when you're interviewing someone, like, I was not looking, but my friend told me about this. And they're like, this is you. You have to work here. Or, hey, I came across your job posting on LinkedIn or whatever. This is me. I wasn't even thinking about moving, but I read this. I want to work for your company, right?
Yeah.
And I think we have to remember that A players want to work for our companies.
Mm-hmm. Well, most job descriptions describe the outer circle of the golden circle. It's what they do. People know what, generally speaking, a customer service rep does, a sales rep does, a technician does, whatever. They know, generally speaking, what they do. What they want to know is, how do you do it and why do you do it? The culture, the core, the soul of your organization. So I think that's great. Alex, how about you? How do you operationalize your purpose statement in your organization?
And I think that really is critical, because just having that purpose statement, okay, it feels good and maybe it gets me up in the morning, but what the heck do I do with it?
Yeah.
And in our case, we made sure to, from a run the business, from a hiring perspective and a day-to-day perspective, to really codify it into, and I'm not going to call it core values, because we actually called it our DNA. What's the DNA of our team members? That way we can use that as a filter for, hey, who are the right folks coming in? So things like applied learners, people who are constantly learning new things and applying them. And then we came up with a bunch of the behaviors inside of that. So we could say, okay, here's what this looks like. Here's how we live. And then we reinforce it. Every single leader in the company is strongly encouraged to identify and catch people exemplifying those DNA behaviors. And then we've got 3 levels of just rewards, kind of a level 1, 2, and 3, that we have gift cards and other rewards attached, and we celebrate it in front of a group town hall. And every week we're just continuing to bring that to the fore of, this is who we are, this is what we believe, here's how we act.
Yeah. You have to keep it in front of people weekly. I mean, that's, if you want people to remember it and live by it and have it get them out of bed every day, they need to be seeing it every day. They need to be hearing it every day. They need to understand it, have it be a part of their soul as well. And if you don't operationalize it on a regular basis, that's not going to happen.
And I also recommend, to companies, and we have a lot of construction manufacturing, right, where they're not the digital marketing agencies, right, or the ones that feel like they can do these creative things. Follow other companies. Right, I'll give you one right now. Gabb Wireless, GABB Wireless. They make devices for kids that are secure. So you don't want to give your kid a phone. They give you something that can provide security. They can only call or text so many people, but they're doing it for families that want that security. They have the biggest purpose I've ever seen in a company, and they're probably 100 people. But they are all over social media and they're sharing it, and they have so many people applying for their positions because they're just living it out. They don't need someone to memorize what their purpose is. They're showing it, right? In everything that they do. And I think that's the hard part, but that's actually where the impact actually is just live it out in your social, in your normal meetings. It doesn't have to be this big event that you do around it. It just needs to be in the blood of the organization, just how we do what we do every day.
Yeah.
And Jamie, as you talk about that living it out, that's exactly what it means to live your brand. When we talk about the purpose, this takes us right into who are we, what are we known for? That's the brand. It all comes back together. I love
our
that.
culture, our model, our impact model, people ask us all the time why brand is on there. And this is exactly why. That is part of, it's a thread, right? And how strong you are as a company and how you live it out. So it's exactly, I love it.
Yeah. So we want to help all of you dig deeper into your why statement and how you use it. So I want to just share to help you start thinking about this. We're going to share the golden circle. And so I thought it'd be helpful to see one live and in action first. And so I'm actually going to share my screen here of our keystones, what, how, and why. So Jamie, just super quick, want to talk through our what, how, and why so people understand kind of what that golden circle could look like.
Yeah. So what we do, and we talked about this earlier, is we do business strategy, we do culture work, we do leadership development and growth. There's a bunch of services within there, right? We do work that propels businesses forward. How we do it, so these are our brand values. This is how we show up with our clients with helping first, raw authenticity, right? We are differentiated for a consulting firm in how we do what we do, and we're super proud of that. But why we do it is we're a strategy firm that really is focused on driving organizational impact at the human level. Our why has nothing to do with strategy. It has nothing to do with helping you create the best strategy on the planet. Yes, we're really damn good at that. But that's not what drives us from inside. It's impact and it's people. It's the humans that create the strategy. And so again, this just gives you an idea of how it funnels through. We can still do what we do and we can do it better than anybody else. But the real core to what drives our decisions on what to do and what not to do in the business is whether or not we can live out our why.
Yeah. And did you have any other client examples, Jamie, that you wanted to share before we break?
I did. I just captured a couple of them that were more recent just to share, because I think sometimes sharing examples as you go into this will kind of help give you words to it. And again, we're not shooting for perfection, but I'm going to tell you the purpose statement, and then I will tell you, I'm not going to give you company names because I haven't been given the rights to share this, but I'm going to tell you the industry, like the type of company it is. So the first one is helping create connections through food and drink. Right? So that's what they believe they do. It's their why. So this is a company that literally sells commercial kitchen equipment. They don't own the commercial kitchens, right? They don't own the restaurant that they're installing it in, but they know they have a role in helping people connect and make human connection through food and drink. They're just removed from that every day, but they can still claim that, right, as their why, because the restaurant can't do that if they don't have their equipment. Okay, so it just gives you an idea of how you can connect that. The next one is positively impacting lives through building our community. Right? So this is a builder. It's a really large general contractor that builds schools and auditoriums and really big stuff, but they're so community focused that they know their community is better because of the work that they do. Yeah. And they center everything they do around that. And then a last one is a legacy of quality that creates opportunities for growth. It's a CPG company. So this is a 90-year-old family-owned yogurt cottage cheese business, right? That is still around and is thriving. But they're all about the quality is what has differentiated them, and it's what drives every single decision they make. And they know when they stay true to that, they create opportunity for their people, for the business, for their customers. So just to kind of give you some examples of some statements that companies have come up with and how it doesn't tie to what they do. You wouldn't even know what they do by the statement itself.
Cool. Thank you. That's helpful, I think, for people to see that. So now we'll bring back up the golden circle. And what I want you guys to do is to think through what is your what, and then your how, and then your why. Jamie and Alec are going to hop over to your table to kind of talk through this, drive some discussion around this. And then we'd like to ask one or two of you, if you're willing to come up and share your own why statement. So Jamie and Alec will ask for volunteers if anyone is willing to share when we come back together. So we'll take about 10 minutes to do this, and then we'll regroup again. So have a good conversation. All right, welcome back. Jamie, you said you have one brave soul who's willing to come share their why statement.
Yeah, one I kind of voluntold and asked to please share it so that the two of you could hear it, right? Everybody else heard it, but Meg, we'll have Meg come up and just talk about, she just kind of talked through, like, I think this is where these statements align, and they were really, really good. So I wanted her to share those.
Okay.
All right, now I'm in a new spot.
Yeah, welcome, Meg.
Okay, so at Aardvark, we did put some time and energy into thinking about all of this. So to start, we have, like what we do is provide solutions and services of uncompromising quality to give our customers the ability to bring their products, services, and experiences directly to their audiences. And we lean into our core values to really describe how we do that. So that's what's right for our customers above all else. Obsessive attention to detail and planning by being creators, not duplicators, and being proactive, not reactive. And when we drill it all down, the why is to empower movement and create opportunity.
I love that.
And we talked, Chelsea and Alex, we talked a little bit about how that can be a grounding mechanism for your strategy of the business, right? Mm-hmm. Strategy, make good decisions based on, does it further your why?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So just curious from, and thank you, Meg, for sharing. I appreciate that. I know it can be intimidating to come up on stage. But I'm curious, in your conversation, were people talking about how they're utilizing their purpose and their why statements? Just if there's any other ideas.
We didn't go deep into that, but we had a really interesting conversation, or I just shared about the personal why workshops that we do and how to tie in. Anna had a great example of, I asked about, does your personal why map to the business why? And it was kind of not a trick question, but I'm always just curious if people feel like those need to tie, because a lot of employees do. And Anna had a great example of, she said, it isn't that those tie, but the business, the how of the business allows her to live that out. Yeah. Right, allows her to live in her personal why. And so I think that's the most important thing, is we need our employees to know what their personal why is, but it doesn't have to be the same as the business. They just need to have the opportunity to live it out as part of the business and in their personal lives, right? So we need to support them. I was joking, saying to be a soccer coach, if that helps them live out their why, right? And give them the flexibility in their schedule to be able to do that. So there's more than just the business when you get to that personal why level.
Yeah, and the personal why is so important, I think, to figure out. I mean, the way that when I talk about it with clients is, my personal why in the job that I did before, I was an HR leader. And why I did that and why I'm doing what I do now, exactly the same thing, totally different jobs. But I'm able to live out my why in different ways. And I am able to live it out personally. And so I think that it's motivating for yourself to know what it is, and then to know how you're living it out and how to do it more, because it gets you out of bed every day. And so the personal why is equally, as if not more important than the company why. So any other comments, Alex or Alec, regarding purpose, or any other things you'd like to share?
I think we got, two next actions. One is, if we don't have a why statement for a company, let's really think about it. I think in the resource table, we'll have a link to Simon Sinek's Golden Circle, which, I have watched a number of times, and every time I listen to it, I get something new out of it. It's a classic.
Yeah.
And then the second one would be to really think about your personal life statement.
Mhm.
And maybe you need some help in crafting that. So Keystone Group is a great resource for both the company why and the personal why.
Yeah, and I would say a third, and we have this call to action because we want you to do something with the information that you're gaining today. That's the whole reason why we are doing what we're doing. That's our why behind this. We want to help you develop and live out your purpose. So another thing that we have listed on here is ensuring that your recruiting process is focusing on hiring people who believe in what you believe. So what do you need to do to ensure that's happening? Do you need to work with Vision Spark? Do you need to make sure that your job postings, your job descriptions, that everything is all interrelated, and you're using good interviewing questions even to identify the core values, a core value fit and a purpose fit, and all of those things. So I think there's a lot that can be done with purpose, but I don't want it to be overwhelming either. That's where we're saying pick one thing that you're going to take away from today, an action item that you're going to commit to doing to make sure that you have a purpose statement first, and that your leadership team's aligned with it. You have your recruiting process that's focused on it, and then making sure all your employees are aligned on it as well.
And I brought up with the broader group, but I want to reiterate it again, because I think as employees, sometimes we look to the executive team, right, or the leadership team and say, I want them to know this, but I don't know how to tell them, right, that we need a purpose or we need to do work around this. And here's the answer, is figure out where the biggest risk is in the business and help align this to that. And so I had shared, right, with Alex saying, like, every candidate that you want in your organization is asking about this right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is your call to action to your own leadership team to say, I want to make sure we have this locked and loaded, because as a business, for us to be successful, as we look at the labor force numbers, right, over the next 8 to 10 years, this is going to be an absolute requirement to incorporate into your hiring process and to know, right, as an organization. And so use some of that, right, as a catalyst to start to have these conversations, because I know it is hard sometimes to push these conversations up in the organization, but it's so important right now.
I love that approach, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Anything else to add? Okay. Awesome. So our last thing that we want to do is have you select, what is your call to action? Is it one of these 4 items? Is it something else? And then we're just going to pop back into the table and just quick do a round robin around the circle. Which one did you select? And when are you going to do it? What's your next step to really commit to what it is that you're going to do next? So go ahead and select which one it is. And then we'll break away and go back into our worlds after we're done this discussion. But we will be having our next workshop is going to be around intentional communication. So we'll send out the information, the dates on that when we send out the recording for this the next few days. But Alec and Jamie will hop back to the table to go around and talk through what it is that you are going to commit to. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining.